By what strange manipulation of time is the prisoner taken back to the Old West? Raw, rough, and brutal. But they call it living in harmony.
What's wrong with our town, mister?
Maybe I don't like the way it's run.
Oh, you just do as the judge says. He'll look after you.
I look after myself.
It's a good town.
Keep it.
So you don't like our town, huh? You insult us!
The girl in the saloon was his appealing ally in a town ruled by corruption.
Let justice be done.
What's the charge?
Against you, none. You're free to go. The people of Harmony against Katherine Johnson. You're accused of aiding a prisoner to escape.
The prisoner is dealt rough justice in his next brawling adventure on this channel.
Well, as here we are once again with 6 of 1, delving into the wonderful, surreal, intellectual, ahead of its time show, The Prisoner. And this one of the most atypical episodes of the show, Living in Harmony.
Yeah, this is really out there. We are kind of getting into the psychedelic portion of the remaining episodes, and I'm personally a huge fan of this episode. If this episode was made today, it'd be superheroes. It wouldn't be a Western, because it was obviously tapping into what was massive at the time. What was massive at the time was Westerns.
Right.
Westerns were kind of the superhero thing which we have going on nowadays. And so it's using something, a trope in that time, which was exceedingly popular, placing the prisoner into that trope, and then seeing how that one worked out. And this is an exceptionally violent episode.
Oh my God! There, so many people get like straight up murdered.
Lynched,
there's a hanging,
strangled, shot.
One girl gets killed twice.
Yes. God bless her. I could be wrong, but I think this may have been banned in America for a while.
It was banned in America for a while. Yeah, and I think part of it had to do with the violence and in it.
Yes,
and also the fact that this doesn't really look favorably. Like America, we mythologize our Old West. I mean, especially in the 60s, we hadn't really deconstructed the Western yet. I mean, I guess the Sergio Leone movies had, but certainly we hadn't seen Unforgiven yet, because that was in the 90s. But this episode, it doesn't really treat our Old West legacy very kindly. Even though it plays on existing tropes, but it brings a little bit more reality into it all.
Probably more realistic than non-realistic. Sure, in a very condensed way. But at the same time, kind of very much sort of mirrors the perceived violence in the village, which is going on. Whereas we get this very out and open, because back in those days it was brutal, it was open, it was you'd go off and find yourself land and build a house in the middle of nowhere, and good luck.
Oh yeah,
good luck. You might be found dead with your family there, you might prosper, you might get farmhands, you might grow. It was almost a lottery. But if you're going to place somebody in that period, then you've got to treat that period as was. And, it's a very earnest show. So I fully understand why they would show the Western in the earnest nature that they did.
No, absolutely. And I like the Western town. Like, I can't imagine. Somebody said, I think in the chat before we started, that this was the first Western filmed in the UK. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true or not, but I like the fact that when I was working at Warner Brothers, when I first started working in the entertainment business, they had an old standing Western town on the back lot. So you could go back there, and I used to go back there all the time.
Used in many another show as well.
And it was great. I mean, it was a great standing set. It was really fun to go back and walk into it because, you go around the corner, you're on an asphalt street, and there's construction going on. You turn the corner, and then you're in this western town, and you couldn't help but feel like you were back in time because when you stood in the middle of the town, you couldn't see anything outside of this western milieu, even though you knew right on the other side of it, it was just a studio backlot. And they do a pretty good job. The western town, it's pretty good,
I think it's excellent.
Yeah,
I mean, if you look around, there's some weird ass architecture because you can see some round spires and shit going on around the place, and you're kind of like, okay, all right. And it certainly looks like a lot of the set's been built onto existing concrete buildings and such. I have a little suspicion that it's where the cultural center is in the village. Right. That area's been dressed up to look like a Western village. But for a UK show, I think that's hell, considering they also do some external filming as well. In the bush, and they seem to. I mean, they got the filter right, of course. They got the filter right, but they certainly seem to get the pretty decent landscape to do some filming in.
Absolutely. They went up into a hill somewhere. They had saddles and horses, and it was.
But this is where we get the Western opening of The Prisoner.
And it's
cracking.
It's pretty great. I really do love it.
If the beginning of The Prisoner was a Western, this is how the beginning would be. I thought it was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when it kept going to the horse's head and then the horse's legs. Because it's going to the Lotus's engine and it's going to Lotus's wheels.
Right.
To get that power and speed. And they managed to equate it very well in the steed. But I love this. I really do enjoy this episode a lot. Alexis Canner is fantastic.
Yeah.
In this episode, and this is his first of 3 appearances. He gets an uncredited appearance in The Girl Who Was Death, and then he is the kid in the Fallout, the final episode, which God help us. God help our souls on that one, because I ain't got a clue. So yeah, I really enjoyed the fact that although the premise at the end is quite weak when it's all revealed,
right?
To me, it was the journey, not necessarily the destination with this one, because there was stuff you knew. You knew this wasn't real,
right?
You knew that The Prisoner wasn't back in 1886. This wasn't real, and the way that it was acting it out, you knew that obviously this was some trick, some illusion, but you were there to experience this journey. You were there to experience this story.
But I thought it was interesting. This is kind of an odd thing to say, but the opening. It's like the opening of The Prisoner, like that really happened to him. We saw that in Arrival, and then they play it out as the opening of the show. But I always thought, I always like it when TV shows, like there's an episode of Star Trek Enterprise, actually it's 2 episodes, In a Mirror Darkly, when they go into the mirror universe. And they change the opening credits of the show to reflect the fact that season 4, that you're in the mirror universe. So they reverse the credits. And from a perspective standpoint, are they saying that in the mirror universe there was Enterprise, and it had the mirror universe opening where everybody's evil? Well, now in this show, what is it saying to the viewers? I mean, it's a weird sort of a fourth wall. Like, are we supposed to take this as a replay? Is the whole episode in a way a replay of Arrival? Like, is that what we're supposed to get out of it? I mean, it isn't exactly that way, but but it's like, okay, I know it's a stupid thing because it doesn't. I'm adding meaning to it. I'm just saying, from my perspective as a viewer watching the opening, I'm like, okay, so basically this is just we're rewatching Arrival as if it were taking place in the Old West.
To me, this was because of what they were trying to do. They had to reset number 6.
Sure.
So to reset number 6 in this world, you had to relive how you got to this situation.
Absolutely.
So if he was in a Western and then was in a sci-fi, then we'd have Arrival. But it's roles reversed. So number 6, although it looks like this is for our benefit, this is actually for number 6's benefit, this opening.
Yeah.
Because this is all about, you're a sheriff, that's your backstory in this psychedelic trip which would put you in. You have resigned as sheriff to the marshal. You've got on your horse and you're going away. You know, you're just riding on out there, see what's out there in the world. You happen to stumble upon a group of bandidos, and then after a scrap, they take you down, and then you awake in harmony. So it's actually all for number 6's benefit, but we get this incredible nod to the opening of the actual TV show. So, yeah, I think it's very, very cleverly done.
Now, the bandidos they're, in my mind, they're basically the people like from Arrival that were working. They're working for quote unquote number 2. And they've been sent to get him on purpose, like that.
Yeah,
group.
that's the Undertakers. Yeah,
yeah, they're absolutely part of that, because in a way, the only people that exist in this world are from Harmony. There is no outside world. You know, there is no other place that he came from this time in his mind, because, like you said, it's all a dream. It's all nightmare logic. But I do like, because I always think to myself, is this real? You know, and if it is real for me as a viewer, how does that relate back to what we're watching? But
okay, let me ask you a question.
Uh-oh.
What did you think about the kid? Just generally as a person.
I don't. That was my biggest problem with this episode. Is the way he acts and the things that he does seemed, well, in a way, kind of, if you think of it at the end, you know it's all a dream, the dream logic that's there.
No, I'm just asking you, if you were in Harmony, what would be your take on the kid?
Oh, that he's some mute, mentally defective thug that his mental disability is what makes him a ruthless killer who has no empathy, no morality. He works on pure instinct. Whatever he wants, he takes. If he wants to pretend, if he wants to play with guns in front of you and threaten to shoot you through the bars of a cell, he will. He's complete chaos that at any one moment could. Let
me ask, what do you think of Kathy? Describe Kathy.
Well, to me, Kathy, well, first of all, she's a loving family person because she loves her brother. She runs the business. I guess she's the madam of the saloon, and yet, in a way, she represents sort of the damaged psyche of everybody that's trying to bring normalcy to the world, because she's a business owner. She's got a place where everybody gathers.
I'm just talking general, just your general superficial. What do you see when you see these characters?
She's hot.
Like the kid. Yeah, I mean the kid. You see brutal, psychotic, sadistic. Kathy, pretty, empathetic.
Yeah.
Kind. Congratulations, we've all fallen for the trap because we know exactly what this is.
Yes.
And we know exactly how these things play out. But we're empathizing with somebody who we know will ultimately be involved in the process.
Yeah, that is true.
That I think is the really clever aspect of this episode, because this episode was all about perception of reality. And so even though we knew, because perception is reality, or even though we knew that Kathy would be villainous, that she would be part of number 2's schemes, or at the very best case scenario, non-existent. We fell for it because we started to do exactly what number 6 was meant to do: empathize with her, relate to her, be attracted to her. Valerie French, very attractive woman.
Very attractive woman.
So we fell for all of the traps that number 6 was meant to fall for in this episode.
And also, I mean, this episode is so full of Western archetypes. The only thing, the kid doesn't act in a way, he almost acts in a surreal fashion. Mm-hmm. Like, because he doesn't act like the normal the second in command, the muscle for the rich landowner or the rich
he's not second in command, he's the gun.
Yeah, the gun. He's
just the gun, yeah.
But he's also, he doesn't act, he's either drunk or he's always doing something that's kind of weird and kind of off. It's not
damaged.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. But it's
okay. And then what happens at the end of the episode?
Well, I love the fact when he talks, finally.
He can't differentiate between reality and fantasy.
Right. He's gone.
This is a person who's damaged and been broken and probably gone through this process so many times, because he admits to doing this over and over again. It has destroyed him. So
yeah, his mind snaps.
Had to be that way, because he himself is beginning to lose the perception of reality and fantasy.
Yeah, but you don't know that until...
No, but exactly. That's the clever aspect, though. Yeah. When you look back at it through the lens, when everything's revealed, then you can see that they're all damaged by this. From the prisoner.
It's messing around completely. It's destroying your brain. Another thing that we should mention is this episode was written, produced, and directed by David Tomblin, who was. Yeah.
Okay. At the beginning of the episode, it says written by David Tomblin, and there is another name underneath.
No, it's a single credit. Written, produced, and directed by David Tomblin.
No, I'm pretty sure. Hold on. Based on a story by.
Oh yeah, right.
I think it says based on a story by David Tomblin and so-and-so. Now then, the so-and-so underneath has been on interview and was livid at this episode, because he said, I wrote this episode because we all had to brainstorm episodes and put episodes together, and scripts were taken and scripts were rejected and da-da-da. And he said, I did this Living in Harmony, and I gave it to David Tomblin, and they're just like, no, it's not going to make it. And then it was dropped, and he said, the next thing I know, it's on TV. It's on TV, and it's written and directed by David Tomblin, and, produced by David Tomblin. It's a great producer. But it's just like, this guy was not happy at all, because he said, I was the one that wrote this goddamn episode, and I just get this little story based on a story by
Ian Rakoff.
Yeah,
Ian Rakoff.
But he was not too pleased about that.
I didn't know that. I just thought it was interesting because Tomblin was like the first AD on this show, and he really stepped up. But I thought it was interesting because on television, to see that credit, the written, produced, and directed by, is something you don't ever see on TV. And
on Discovery, you see produced by. Produced by. I'm not even halfway there.
Oh,
21 producer credits, I think episode 3 had.
Well, what's great about Tomblin is, he was the first AD.
That's what's great about him.
He was the first AD on Star Wars, and Raiders of the Lost Ark and Superman the movie.
Yeah.
And he also worked on
Empire as well, I think. Didn't do Empire as well?
He might have been. And he worked a lot for on like a Space 1999.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a real cornerstone of the British film industry.
Oh, he was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Very spectacular, strong choice. Kind of didn't really move his lips a lot when he spoke. He just kind of just sort of like this and when he spoke, but you could still kind of like really understand what he was saying, which was quite weird because it's just like no movement coming out of his mouth whatsoever. But that's how David Tomlin actually spoke. Yeah, great guy, absolutely wonderful guy. Screw this guy, screwed Ian off though.
But I thought that was pretty interesting because this feels directorially, it does feel different than other episodes.
It's brilliantly directed.
Yeah, there's some really interesting shots. Like at one point you have the number six's, can we call him number six? Number six's perspective of when he's swinging on the rope, attacking the guys out and you get his a swing POV shot, which I thought
never mind that.
That was pretty
you get
great.
A POV shot of being lynched.
Yes, you do.
You get the POV shot of Kathy's brother being harassed out of the jail, put onto the horse, the noose going around your neck, and then lynched.
Yep. I mean,
and I think that's what did it for America.
I think so too. That and also strangling a woman to death.
There was some great framing of the camera at the shots. Very exaggerated, and they worked brilliantly. Again, we had another POV shot at the end when Kathy was trying to escape the kid, and she's bouncing from one side to the other and trying to get past, and then you just got this like,
yeah, it's
as he's just hooked her in. So yeah, there was very good use of the POV camera for that.
And then there's one, there's a couple of other things that are pretty saucy, like when Kathy at one point says, for newcomers or regulars, you get the first one free, or something, meaning come visit me later, number six, and I'll take you upstairs and show you what's what.
Yeah.
And these are other things that you can't get away with on American television in 1967, 68. CBS, I could see the CBS censors going, yeah, no, we can't show this episode.
It was for the whiskey, but it's quite clearly a brothel as well as a saloon.
Yeah.
But they can't say brothel.
No.
So they have to insinuate with the women. The first one's free, and you'll be sticking around, stranger, and all this kind of business, and So they had to tread carefully because sex was just such a no for regular television. It was just such a no, anything like that. No, 60s, no.
Parents all slept in separate beds then, didn't you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Single beds in the bedroom. Okay. The stork brought the babies in and all that kind of business.
But I find there's a lot of violence in this episode. There's a lot of fighting, and there's even a scene that I forgot about. I always forget about this, when the kid is playing with number six in the bar and shoots him. And is so good, he's such a crack shot that he grazes number six's face and grazes his hand. And I like, that was an odd choice. I liked that.
Oh, I stuff like that was superb because it was, the kid was trying to obviously provoke number six to picking up the gun. Number six wouldn't pick up the gun and was acting calmly. But number six read the kid. Like at the very beginning, when he tries to go for the whiskey and the kid shoots the whiskey glass, then he says whiskey again, pours him another glass, and he flinches before he grabs it to see if he's going to shoot it again. Then he picks it up. Then he swigs a little to taste it. Then he necks the rest of it, goes to the judge, punches the kid. After that, he knew that the kid was warning. So when he went in and shot him across the cheek, he knew it was warning. And then when he shoots him across the hand, he knows he's not going to shoot him. Because he has to still adhere to the rules of you have to draw first or you have to be a willing participant in the duel, because it's about dueling for the kid, not about killing necessarily. It's about dueling the men, because he has to be top dog. He has to be the quickest shot on the block and whatnot.
But as we see,
so I like that.
The poor, I guess the poor, he says he's married, but the poor guy who does draw on the kid, once you've drawn on the kid, that's it, man. And the kid takes him out. Blows him away.
Because he's flirting with Kathy. Well, more actually, Kathy was flirting with him as a regular. She was just like, because he just had his arm around her, banter, drunk. They were all a bit leery. Kathy seemed absolutely fine with it, obviously knowing this person. And then, she's like, don't let your wife find out. And he's like, ah, but the kid, no, he's full of rage, but he's not, because it's all fantasy. Perception is reality, and it's the perception. And it's everything is an act for six. Everything. They are building up the kid's lust for Kathy. So when they push Kathy into number 6's arms, he has an inbuilt ready adversary for him.
No, absolutely. And also, it's the manipulation. It's great. Uh-oh. Where did you go?
We're fine.
Oh.
No, we're fine.
Oh, good.
I did it.
Oh, well.
I just needed to kill the camera for a second.
I was like, where did you go? No, but what I thought was very interesting about, actually, something might be happening in, hang on, I want to make sure that I'm looking at the stream. Is the stream okay? Or are you seeing?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love how, once again, they're manipulating. They provide the woman. They're playing on the fact that number 6 is empathetic and he does care. They know that he cares about other people. They know that he will help a woman, and she's there. The reason they have her there in the first place is they need her to be the fulcrum for the manipulation of 6. Hopefully spilling the beans, or how they're going to figure some way out. Once you have a woman to rescue, that's sort of number 6. I wouldn't call it an Achilles heel, but it's definitely something that they're aware of, and they use to full effect in this episode. Because in a way, number 6, even though it's fantasy, even in an Old West fantasy, he might not know he's in a fantasy right away. It might seem real to him, but even back in the day, number 6 is a chivalrous man that will come to the aid of a woman in distress. And
absolutely. And instead of just having a regular woman, because she's Valerie French, very attractive one, but at the beginning he just walks out. He's not just lured in by a pretty face.
No,
it's when he leaves town, he gets dragged back they usher him out, shall we say, to the prison, because there's like, I'm leaving. Hey, what's wrong? Why do you think our town stinks? So the judge puts him in prison for protective custody. And that's when they bring out Kathy's brother, which is likely just a cardboard cutout, and lynch them. So then they've now attached the empathetic part to Kathy. Now they're just like, now that he's seen that this is a woman who's just trying to get by in this clearly corrupt town, lost her brother, her only family by the looks of it. She's a good soul in a dark place, and
a very dark place.
That soul.
And I think one of the very interesting things about this, and I was going to ask you about it, is that there's a long time in this episode is spent with number 6. They want number 6 to pick up a gun, and he refuses to pick up a gun. And I've always sort of been torn by, obviously, why resist picking up the gun? Why not just pick it up? Like, is it just
Robert.
another form of his resistance, or
Robert? Shame on you.
Well, I was I was curious what you.
The gun is the acceptance of the societal position,
right? But that
so the gun is the loss of the individual and the becoming conforming to the archetype, just becoming one of the crowd. You are the sheriff, you wear the badge, you wear the gun. It's all part of the system. But he refuses to wear the gun because he refuses to lose that bit of individuality. That's why they keep having to beat him up. That's why they keep trying to get him to put the gun on to protect himself. It's dangerous. You need to protect himself. It's not dangerous. Individuality is not dangerous. That's what they're trying to beat out of him, his individuality.
But I also,
and that's what they're saying is dangerous. It's dangerous to be an individual.
See,
because you're not part of the crowd. If you're part of the crowd, look what we can do.
Absolutely, but I saw it also as being there's sort of a spiritual aspect to it, in the sense that he's not going to kill. It's not just the system, but
no, he is going to kill because that's exactly what he does when he picks the guns up.
Well, right, but at first he's trying not to do that. You know, he's trying to not, because in this civilization that he's in, the death comes so quickly. Nobody seems to care whether it's lynching, whether it's murder, whether it's gunfighting in the saloon. That the life is so cheap here.
Yes.
And I saw him not just buying into the archetype, but in a way
why do they die? The guy dies in the saloon because he gets his gun out.
Sure, but that's
he engages in the rules of the society, and he's gunned down because of it, because he can't play the game well. He doesn't know how to play the game properly. The kid knows how to play the game properly. You draw me, I'll shoot you.
Right.
You try and draw me, I'll shoot you.
Well, I mean, but they do know.
The same.
They do know. Like I love when the kid guns the guy down, and McGoohan comes in, and the first thing that all the bystanders say is, "Oh no, it's okay. He drew first."
Well, it's not so much it's okay. They were explaining the rules.
Sure.
The rules of society, and the rules of the society was whoever draws the gun first, if the other person shoots them, that's self-defense.
Right, and then death is fine. You can murder.
Not self-defense. Yeah, because you knew the kid would kill that guy always from Sunday. But it's part of society. So if number 6 picks up the gun and becomes part of that society, what's the first thing that happens to 6 when he picks up the gun? The kid is immediately outside waiting for the showdown. The very first thing. You pick up the gun, you become part of the society, you have to play by those society rules. You're gone, you're lost. And what happens to 6? He gets killed. Not by the kid, but he gets killed by the judge. Because he engages in the society, and it's, in this case, a very violent and deadly society, because it's all so condensed, and it ultimately ends with him dying. If he never picked up the guns, though, because he went for revenge.
Right.
That's what he went for. He didn't pick up the gun because it was the right thing to do, necessarily. He picked up the gun for selfish revenge, ultimately, which expedited the plan for number 2, which ended up getting the judge to kill number 6, which stopped the trip, shall we say, prematurely, and number 6 was able to come round quicker than they envisaged, in terms of being able to grasp reality from fantasy. So the guns were very important.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's the crux of the whole episode is getting him to do that. I mean, and they try multiple ways to do that. You know, everybody has a part to play in sort of seducing him to to pick up those guns. I mean, even Kathy, you know, it's let's show how all of the death in the episode was all about, even the hanging of Kathy's brother, you know, all of it was leading him down that path to become that furious vengeance.
Yeah, they were using his morality to against him almost.
Yeah.
In an effort to make him conform.
And it's
and also that worked.
I mean, also that, you know, again, it's all about getting him to still spill the beans, you know, to reveal. There's a great line in this episode where, why did you? It's the equivalent of, why did you resign? And what I'm trying to think of. I can't remember the line, but he says he says some number 6. We call him that, the sheriff. What are we going to call him? He's still number 6.
I don't know. 6 sheriff.
He does say, he has a great line that he says. He kind of turns the question back on the judge, and I don't now. I'm losing.
Yeah, when he's first sat in the saloon.
Yes.
Yeah, I wish. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I wish I could remember.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I loved all of his comebacks at the beginning. All of the mano-a-mano, the back and forth between. I
think it was something like, "Are you looking to settle down?" He's like, "Sure," and he's like, "Harmony's a great place." He's like, "Not here."
Right.
You know, it was something kind of like that. It was kind of something real, kind of biting and dismissive about Harmony. Something on those kind of lines. But yeah. We have all the chicanery with the kid and number 6, with the judge in number 6, with him trying to escape. He gets dragged back. We then have the threat of the kid against Kathy, and so number 6 is told, "You stay, you put on the badge, you know, you become," no, he says, "You become sheriff, then she'll be safe. As long as you're sheriff, she'll be safe." And that's when he puts the badge on, but he won't pick up the guns. And even the judge is like, "Oh, that's fine, you know, that's fine for now." But then he's just immediately into, gotta get him to get these guns on. So he just literally walks out and just got this huge mountain of a man just waiting to beat him up with his hands. And then he's got a couple of lackeys with him as well, and they have this great fight scene.
He too says, "I don't need guns." You know that.
Oh yeah. I don't need guns too. But he's like 6'8" or something.
Yeah. And there's another. I mean, there's another in terms of gun scenes. There's another scene. It's one of my favorite scenes in this episode. It's both creepy. It's when number 6 is in the cell. He's there for protective custody, and he defiantly rolls his cigarillo, and the kid is out there literally in a sort of a psychotic, crazy state. Threatening just to shoot him, you know, in the cell, and pointing the gun at him. It's very, I think that a lot of that added to the fact that this episode was not played on American television, because it really shows, like in the Old West, if you see these shows, they're not sadistic. American Westerns, I mean, sure, people get shot all the time, but the taunting in this episode, of the kid with the gun, and there's a lot of intimidation, sadism in this episode. There's a lot of that was very
great.
But yeah, it's a really creepy, unsettling, unpleasant episode, I think.
Yeah, and if you look at the camera angles when he's doing the drawing and the hand coming out with the palm, the camera is very much focused to go down the arm to give that real perspective, you know, that real perspective on the kid, and Dutch angles, you know, all this kind of, because the kid's drunk, so they're trying to ham that up. It's a psychotropic trip anyway,
right?
So it kind of makes sense also. And again, when you look back through the lens, it's clear to see why number 8, as he turns out to be, is just cracking inside by doing all of these constant jumps between fantasy and reality with different people. And he's never come across anyone that's resisted like number 6 has. And it is terribly sadistic, and it is frightening if you think about it.
It really is.
Number 6 is behind bars. He has no gun. He has no protection. And he's literally having his life taunted. And it showed how cheap life is here. Also shows, I think they did a great job of setting the kid up as such a dangerous person.
Oh, absolutely. No,
and to do that in such a 45, 50-minute episode, it's like the kid is just frightening. In reality, you came across him, you wouldn't look him in the eye. You would not look this guy in the eye for fear that he would just gun you down.
Oh yeah.
And so they did a great job, and it was scenes like that which really set up Alexis Canner as such a great villain in this episode.
Now let me ask you this too. This was something I was thinking of. Obviously the gun culture in the United States is very different than the UK. You don't have private gun ownership the way you do in the United States. Do you think that this was the way guns? I mean, there's a lot of guns in this episode, and a lot of people getting shot. Do you think that there was a little bit of editorializing about America's, our Old West gun culture? Was that something
I don't think it tried to hide that this was a completely different culture. And the reality is that this was more realistic than an American Little House on the Prairie.
Well, what's interesting to me is that this, there's a romanticism, I think, about the Old West and our in America, our past. I mean, certainly on TV in the late 60s, you had Gunsmoke and Bonanza, some of the longest running TV shows of all time. And there was something, the people that lived in the Old West, there was they didn't show it the way it really was. It was very much a stylized, very nostalgic version of what the West was, but this was not.
Even jewels are romanticized.
Right, absolutely.
Cowboys to you are like knights in armor to us.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
There's a very romanticized attitude, ethos around them.
This was not like that at all. This completely.
But no, you put it in reality. Gunfight, guns smashing. These bullets would be tearing you apart, blowing holes all over your body. The death would be excruciating. Lights shining out. They're cutting limbs off you, bits off you. Oh my God. It's hideous, the reality aspect of it, but the romanticized element of it. But this for 67, 68.
There was no romanticization of the Old West in this at all.
You weren't thinking, I'm going to pick up a gun and I'm going to be a hero.
Yeah, no.
You were thinking, I'm going to pick up a gun, I'm going to get the shit shot out of me by the kid.
Yeah,
He's going to kill me.
And also, I mean, there's really no one nice in this town. I mean, there's violence at every corner. Everybody's an adversary. And
Kathy was nice.
She was nice. Well, but she's part of the manipulation as well. I mean, that's
but but we all fell for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we all wanted to save Kathy.
Oh, and she's the only person worth saving. So.
I mean, well, we'll get to the end bit with that one later. But yeah, we have this horrific, frightening gun with the kid. But when 6 escapes from the prison. And the judge beats the kid. It's showing you who's in charge.
Right.
Who wields the gun. So the kid might be the gun, but the judge is very much the person who's wielding it. He points and the kid does. He manipulates the kid and Kathy, which we all know is a ruse for number 6, but he manipulates the kid and Kathy because he knows how the kid feels about her. That's been paramount and very obvious in that. And so when that nice, I say nice guy, if he's part of the town, he's probably a shithead anyway, but whatever. The guy that gets killed by the kid, when his friend, the guy that says sheriff, he drew his gun first, he goes to the sheriff's office and he's just like, you gotta do something about the judge. If you can you can clean up this town, we need this sort of thing. And then, of course, he gets himself lynched and then dumped into number 6, the sheriff's chair. But again, he won't. Thinks about the gun, puts the gun back because he still won't do it. So what does he do? He goes to the inn, and instead of confronting the judge, instead of confronting the kid or anything like that, just goes to Kathy. It's like, meet me at sundown, the edge of town. We're getting out of here. Formulating his escape plan, but Kathy's in on it. And so they're all communicating through these. If this was done today, this would be virtual reality.
Right. Sure.
So imagine if you want to put a spin on this, people, imagine that this is actually a virtual reality program. Because if they had the tech in the 60s, that's what it would be as well. But they're all communicating through the headsets, through the microphones. So everyone knows what's going on. And that's why when we see scenes where 6 isn't there in the scene, he might well be. Because we don't know how he's being led around this town. We don't know where he stops and where he thinks he's out in the wild, where he's not in the wild, probably. He might just be stood at the gate of the Harmony just drooling out the side of his mouth.
Right.
We don't know what the hell's going on, but he's having the audio fed into him. So he will subliminally always know what's going on. So I think those aspects are clever when you know how the tech's working.
Sure.
As well, because number 6 wasn't in the scene, so how could number 6? It's because the tech. Because they're wearing the headphones and the microphones, everything's been fed in. So the whole complete story is going into number 6. Because by the looks of it, the kid, Kathy, the judge, they're all in the Green Dome having tea and crumpets.
Right, exactly.
Just having it all, coming across, and then, meet me at the end of town. Okay. So we wants to meet me at the end of town. Yeah, I got it. I got my headphones on. So it's all kind of like that to them. So that's great. And then, of course, that's when we get the very disturbing scene with the kid throttling Kathy. She doesn't turn up. 6 goes to the saloon, sees the plumage of her headdress or whatever you want to call it coming out the stair, finds her dead body, realizes that she's been choked. He knows who by, and then it's like litmus paper. He just goes, that's it. Different man now.
Right.
It's a different game now. Goes into his office, gets the gun, spins around, makes sure the barrels are clean. When he's putting the holster on, he's making sure the gun is resting in the holster. I love that bit. And he just takes a pinch, because you don't want it jammed in there. Because you don't want to be fucking around trying to get it out. You want it flowing. Ties on the wrap, goes outside.
Well, there's one little bit in here that I loved. After he finds her dead, you see her being buried. He buries her. He buries her at the cemetery, and it's this great shot. It's almost a silhouette.
Yeah.
And it's just a gorgeous touch. It's one of my favorite things in the episode, and it's just a single shot too. There's no coverage in that scene. When you see that hell is coming. It's like in Unforgiven. One of my favorite things in any movie is when Clint Eastwood finds out that Morgan Freeman is dead. And the woman that started this whole thing comes and says, well, Ned's dead. Ned's in front of Greeley's. Like they've displayed his dead body in front of the...
Yeah.
And Clint Eastwood hasn't had a drink in 10 years of alcohol. And he's listening to this and he's contemplating that his best friend in the world is now on display, is dead, his corpse is on display. And he sort of, for the first time, he takes the Schofield kid's liquor and he swigs from the bottle. And you know that hell is going to come rain down. And that's kind of how I felt when you see that silhouette scene. It was the Unforgiven scene where it's like, okay, now it's time. But it was also a last act of humanity in an inhumane place. Yes. Absolutely.
It was so we have this last kind of spark of humanity being buried, and then it's business. And I tell you what, I've seen a lot of Westerns in my time. I think this is one of the best duels I've ever seen in any Western anywhere. I think it's just so well done because it's all seemingly done over the shoulder of Six. You see Six come out of the sheriff's office. Kid's waiting. He's waiting because he knows this. He knows Six is coming out to play now. He's got to come out and play. So you see Six, and then he just gets himself ready, and then they both coming over the shoulder. And the beautiful thing is, the kid just shoots, flicks his gun as he does, puts it back in the holster, stares at number Six, and then crumples.
Yeah, it's great.
It's so good. It's so good. And then you're kind of like, holy shit. Six is like the man. And then we get a great explosive gunfight. Again, goes to the saloon, does his Unforgiven, goes to saloon, grabs the whiskey. Zoink, needs to settle the nerves, needs to settle the adrenaline. Knocks that down. Judge comes in. 3 guys come in. You're not leaving this town. You know, if I can't have you as sheriff, no one can. I'll kill you. I'll kill you first. And then they all take up positions. One goes upstairs on the balcony. One goes to the inside of the bar. The other guy's just kind of a little bit more cocky. Just sort of there, and they've already got their guns out. And then number 6 is he almost becomes the kid. But a more rational, a more reasoned version. And you just know what's going on. It's like the fucking Terminator, what's going on in his head right now. He's literally just going, boop, boop, boop. He is just locking in where these people are. And it's just sort of like, as if he's going to talk to the judge, he just sort of like slinks his shoulder for a second and then whop, bang, douche, bang, bang, roll, bang, takes the third one out. And then the judge has got no choice. And then the judge takes out number 6. Then, after it's all rested, we see the black blazer, white piping.
He's on the
headphones
ground.
On the ground in the bar, waking up, not understanding where on earth he is. What on earth's going on? Sort of rips the headphones off, rips the microphone off, runs outside. Sees the judge with the gun pointing at him. The
photo cutout of the black and white.
But it's in color. If you notice, the first one's in color, and then he runs to grab it, and then it's black and white.
Yeah.
It's meant to give you that quick little jolt. That is he there? No, it's the cardboard cutout. Goes outside. The kid's cardboard cutout on the floor, dead, because they know what the plan is. So they know how the story is meant to play out to get there. So they've already got these cardboard cutouts and stuff, worked out and ready. And I like the way that the judge's cardboard cutout wasn't in the position of the fight.
Right.
He was over where he normally sat, but this time he's front. And to me, that was great because that allowed me to think number 6's imagination is creating the perception of what's happening and where things are. So he has the imagery of being shot by the judge, but even though it's over there, he thinks it's over there because that's
Sure.
where it all happened in his mind. We see the wonderful car. By the way, I think the horse is Rover.
Right, sure.
I think the horse is Rover in this episode. I think that's what horses represent, Rover. So we have the horse, the cardboard cut out of the horse. And he's not quite, he's sort of working it out, but not quite getting it. And then we hear a little bit of the little bit of the brass band in the background, but then it dissipates. And then he's sort of like, boof, twigs, runs out, runs to the edge of the precipice, whatever it is, looks down, sees the village, sees the people walking around, all that sort of stuff. And then we get a cut into number 2's office.
Now, I was going to ask you, now, number 8 and Kathy, do you think that they were, like, I got the idea that they were a team that does this, like we were talking about how this is done a lot.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like they're a team, like maybe they were romantically linked or something, and like you said, this pushed everybody a little too far. Like this one, and in a way that number 6's defiance. Like, let me ask you this. Do you think this episode would be a win for number 6 or a loss? Because it to me, the end of this episode is really bleak.
Yeah,
you know,
I don't think it's either. I don't think anyone won. I think everyone lost.
Right.
But
I mean, number 6 did score a blow against these manipulative bastards.
Well, he wasn't broken. But again, he had that betrayal. Again, he had that loss. Again, he feels isolated, where he thought he could find allies. What I thought, I absolutely agree with you with number 8 and Kathy being, I think this is part of a team. I don't think the number 2 is part of the team necessarily. I just think he was looking and thought these will be great tools.
Maybe before he got to the village, he's utilized them before, like he's deployed them, and
perhaps or recommended, because he seems a little disconnected, and he definitely isn't affected the way that they're affected. I don't think they were romantically linked, but I think number 8 was romantically attracted to Kathy.
Yes. For sure.
I don't think she was, because when they meet up in the saloon at the end, she's sort of like, what are you doing here, number 8? You know, she's very standoffish with him, businesslike with him. And because he's now broken, he can't differentiate between fantasy and reality. His emotional side is taking over. And his emotional side is, I'm in love with Kathy.
Yeah.
And when he calls her Kathy, she's like, oh, shit. You know, she has this real oh, shit moment. And what's really, I mean, God, the ending's so good. Because he grabs her by the throat. And then it cuts outside. And number 6 is back in harmony as well. He's, I think, again, sort of returning to the scene of the crime almost. Mm-hmm. He's trying to see, you know, put things together in his mind, give it some sort of closure. And then we hear this banshee wail. This, and it's not Kathy. It's the kid. It's the kid who's doing it as he's strangling Kathy, who's not making any noise. Which is...
Oh yeah, I mean,
I loved it because he's no longer a mute.
He's
number 8,
and he's snapped. I mean, he's gone around.
It's just gone, absolutely gone, and it's as if all his frustration, all his desire, everything that he's had built in for so long is just being released in this shriek. And then the judge, you know, the number 6 comes in, and then the judge comes in, and number 6 comes in, and then Kathy's down on the floor, and she's just, I wish, well, not quite dead. Like, I wish this was real. I wish it wasn't a, you know, fantasy or whatever. And then she croaks it because she got too close to number 6.
Sure. And also,
then,
I mean, think about the fact that even though they're sharing this whole thing was an illusion, a fantasy, she still was strangled to death by the kid in the fantasy. So they did.
No. Her cardboard cutout was.
Right. Well, right. But they have to be, when they're doing this, their perception.
Oh, yeah. They're acting it. Yeah. There'll be the.
So in their minds, they're experiencing. The cardboard cutouts are there, but they're still participating. Like they're participants. So, the virtual, we'll call it what you will, the holodeck version of this, the simulation had to have some kind of, But
we don't know how the information is being pumped.
Yeah, no, we don't know if it's brainstorm or whatever it is, like whatever device.
It could just be number 8 going. Now I grab Kathy by the throat and start strangling Kathy. Kathy says, I say as he, it could be done in something so mundane as that. However, the drugs are converting it into the wild fantasy that we saw. So we don't know.
No, we don't know. But still, I mean, in my mind,
it wasn't him physically with his hands around her neck.
No, but the idea was there. And if you're depending on how it was going to go and what was really going on in the minds of both number 8 and Kathy, however, it has to take, I mean, obviously, clearly it takes a huge psychological toll because of what we see happening at the end.
Sure.
And if you're doing this all the time, if you're slipping into people's minds and setting them up and playing these scenarios out, one day you're just going to, as we see what happens to number 8, he snaps. I mean, he goes around the bend. He has a psychotic break of some kind. So to me, it's insinuated that there is some kind of, they are living through this. They are playing these roles somehow.
They're experiencing. It could. Yeah, I mean, they could be maybe acting out in the number 2's room.
Right.
Maybe they had to engage in partial drug. Maybe they had to get some sort of link that way. Although that isn't insinuated, it is insinuated that they are.
Yeah, they
compos mentis.
Yeah, they don't really get into the mechanics of whatever this is, and I kind of like that, leaving it ambiguous in your mind. I mean,
sure.
They show these headsets, but it's like, how do they? I think the headsets were almost like that was their explanation, so it kept them from having.
Always like this, really.
Yeah, it kept them from having to define exactly what it was, and again, I think it's much more effective because we add all that in our minds. And another thing is, I wonder when British audiences first saw this, now it's kind of a trope. Oh, it was all a virtual dream, or we've seen that so many times before, but this is 53 years ago or whatever, and when audiences first saw this, what did they think of this trope? Ooh, it's all an illusion. We saw things like that in the Twilight Zone in the 60s. There were other episodes. I mean, Star Trek does a Western episode, Spectre the Gun, and it's I always would. I'm just curious how this would have been received by British viewers who watched this for the first time. I mean, I should.
I remember watching David Tomlin, and he was like, the studio was just like, I can't really have all this drug business in it. This drug business is like, we're not going to get it on television. It's going to get taken off television. So he had to come out with these like really sort of creative ways to basically say, we're drugging them, but we're not drugging them. So I think at the end, it's very quickly sort of jumped over. Fill him with hallucinogenic drugs. Put him into a situation where he has to fight for his life. It's just one line gone in regards to that. So yeah, there was definitely. They had to tread carefully with the drug stuff. I know that. We are at the height of sort of LSD tripping and stuff like that for the 60s, and this could easily be conceived as an LSD trip of some variety.
Right. Well, the interesting thing is so, we do have number 6 waking up in the saloon. He's on the ground, like you said, so he's actually there.
Oh,
So-
he has to. Yeah.
So the idea, I always kind of thought like, okay, if he's in the saloon, and maybe they're broadcasting, like you said, from number 6's office. They're in number 2's office the whole time, using their own headsets. They're not really there, but number 6 is clearly, walking around in this environment. He's in this place. How it all works, we'll never know. I always kind of took it like there were like maybe the 3 of them were in the room together at some point, or the 4 of them, and although it wasn't, you weren't interacting directly with one another, and then those cardboard stand-ups were some kind of augmentation or something. But like I always got the feeling that it was when number 6 sits down and talks to the main man, that they really were having that conversation. Like they were sitting down together and having that conversation, or at least number 6 was sitting down at the table and he was looking at a virtual image, because it is kind of you don't really know how it all works, but number 6 is clearly in that physical space. Sure.
And I only think the reason why I'm glad that they did keep that sort of element ambiguous.
Right.
Because I don't really think they would have had any sort of legitimate tech to kind of palm this off on.
Yeah, no.
Whereas nowadays we could do it like that. We could have the VR world. We could have the VR situation. Multiple people, literally living the whole scenario out. That would give more authenticity to number 8 psychotic break. That would give more authenticity to Kathy actually falling in love with number 6.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like they had the conceit. They had the idea of virtual reality when they made this episode. They just didn't have any idea of how something like that would actually be executed.
Yeah, whereas if it was Star Trek, because it's just more of a sci-fi focus, you have to think. You actually have to think of Apple phones. This is because of Star Trek: The Next Generation. Touch screen is Star Trek: The Next Generation.
What
when people
I mean, if this were made now, number 6 would just wake up with a VR headset or something, or he'd be plugged into like in the Matrix. He'd be plugged into that. He'd have plugs all over him. They would have stuck in or something. And
a holodeck.
Yeah, they had to leave it ambiguous. But it's interesting when he comes out of it, how he is wearing headphones with a microphone. So it's very similar to where we're at 53 years later, when we're gaming with people in these virtual environments. It's the same kind of thing.
Yeah, they were getting there. They were just one. It's not unfortunate because it's 53 years ago.
Yes, it is.
We don't even have Pong yet, for goodness sake. They were on the cusp. These magnificent people were on the cusp of doing a Star Trek: The Next Generation, which doesn't, have 2 more decades worth of technological advances to play with things like touchscreen and whatnot. But yeah, they were on the cusp of creating the concept of virtual reality, which is phenomenal. Out for 68.
Yeah.
Come on.
I know.
And then the kid, when the judge comes in, he's just like, "Oh, judge is gonna beat me. You won't beat me, judge. You won't beat," because you know what's going on in his head now, because you couldn't hear him before because he's mute. And then he just throws himself off the balcony and snaps his neck. And then the judge is just like, number 2's just like, "What the fuck has happened?" And number 6 and it has that classic Western exit, just walks out the saloon and
No, it's great, but it's a dark ending. Because normally all these operatives are like, "Well, gotta go now," and everybody leaves. But this, I would love to see how number 2 is going to explain how this crack team of virtual.
We know people are getting killed in the village. Yeah. We know people are getting lobotomized. We know number 2s are being disposed of. But it's the perception. And the perception is it's all happening nice and neatly. away from us. Living in Harmony was brutal. Because it was all there in front of us. And we actually saw the process. And we saw what could happen. I mean, this number 2 was... It was just like, you don't have to explain this. But I don't think he was in mortal threat for his life. But he was definitely going to get reprimanded.
Oh, yeah.
Busted down. Sent somewhere, you know, as penance for a little while. So even he was like a little bit pissed, but then Kathy and I gotta go back a second. When number 6 realizes what's going on, his mind comes back together, realizes in the village, realizes that it's all a ruse by number 2. So where do you go? You go to number 2. He's there ready to read number 2, the riot act.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you tried, you failed, you, blah, blah, blah. He arrives there. He sees the kid just sat there nonchalantly.
Leaning on the desk.
Yeah, on the desk. Number 2 just stood a little bit away. And he's like, he's sort of like, right, takes 2 steps down, peripheral vision kicks in, sees Kathy by the penny farthing, holding onto the penny farthing.
But she has remorse.
Wait a minute. And then he sees her, she sees him, and you see the look in their eyes. And what does number 6 do? Turns around and walks away without a word. Betrayed again. What's the point? He could see in her eyes.
I mean, she turns away from him. She can't even lock eyes with him.
Yeah, he sees the regret. He sees the regret in her eyes. What's it gonna do to shout at those 2? Those were irrelevant. That was what he was trying to save. And the regret in her eyes as he realizes he's been manipulated and played again and betrayed again. What do you do? Turn around. You walk off. There's no need. Wasn't a need for words. That was one of the best scenes. That's again where, if that was Discovery, that'd be 58 lines and crying and hugging and all that kind of. Sometimes words don't even need to be said.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Parfait.
So great.
Yes.
So we have a lot of questions. I have questions because we were going to do this yesterday. I have questions from yesterday that I wanted to read. Start out, Anonymous says, as you already know, during the summer of 1968, CBS did not air this episode because of its Western violence. Also, by the following fall, CBS's current Westerns had also been changed. Wild Wild West was told to tone down its violence, and the Gunsmoke opening changed from the classic gun draw to Matt Dillon riding a horse. There was another new Western, Lancer, that debuted that fall. It seems like after its first episode, the violence was also toned down. That's interesting. Like I maybe because of what was the Vietnam War, the fact that Americans were seeing other Americans in body bags being brought back on the nightly news, that they had some kind of a mandate to tone down the violence. I don't know. That's an interesting
well, I mean, I could mirror what I've said today in perception is reality. So you start seeing people coming back, then that's actually reality.
Yeah.
There is no more perception anymore. The romanticized element's all gone. For King and Country, it's all gone. Because these people are coming back in body bags.
Well, and also, it was seen as not a just war. I mean, the last war that America really was in before Vietnam was the Korean War, and you still had those evil communists swept down from North Korea and took Seoul, and it was basically a sneak attack, so we have to go help them. But that wasn't the case in Indochina. So, it's sort of interesting. I could see that the love affair with the frontier and guns and would quickly go away when you're seeing real casualties of war.
Yeah, the romantic or the fantastical element even of dying, suddenly takes on a completely different context.
Yeah, absolutely. Sci-Freak sent in a very generous super chat. Thank you, Sci-Fi Freak, for doing that. Sci-Fi Freak says, this episode broke narrative cohesion for me. It's not bad. The problem I have is it changes the world. Yeah, it changes the world in which it's set. It would be like Lord of the Rings was in space for a few chapters, or Star Wars takes place on Earth. Would they be the same? Maybe. And he goes on to say, but in spite of this episode, I'm loving The Prisoner so far. Keep up the good work. Thanks. And also he says, the ending was confusing. It kind of came out of nowhere. And I'm not going to go back to this episode.
The whole point was being off guard. The whole point was being perception is reality. Again, the whole point was to make you question. Like Robert said, you said earlier, you said there are times when you get so invested in this story that you kind of forget, and you sort of like, what's going on? Yeah. You sort of start to ask that question, but you know what's going to happen. But you suddenly start invested, like, what's going to happen? Is he going to escape Harmony? What happens if he escapes Harmony? All the logical things which we know fall to one side because we're caught in this VR. We'll call it VR. We're caught in this VR nightmare.
Yeah.
And we are sucked in as much as number 6 is sucked in.
Well, it's funny as a viewer, you once you get past the initial shock of, wait a minute, this is a Western, you're totally watching it. We're watching it as viewers as if it's an actual Western story going on.
Yes.
It's like, even though it's a little crazy and surreal, it's like, we got to get rid of this gunfighter. We've got to get rid of the judge. We've got to get rid of number 6 must prevail and kill all these people. And I think that was really clever how it made us suddenly watch what we know as an episode of The Prisoner. We are watching it as a Western, a straight up Western. We're not thinking you're accepting the tropes and you're like, oh, okay, number 6 is in a Western, so let's hope that he gets to gun down the bad guys. It's like in other Prisoner episodes, you're very acutely aware he's being manipulated, that this isn't reality, he's been drugged. And they even show you, like, you see number 6, like the one episode where, where he's being drugged every night. They turn on the light, and he's being drugged. But in this episode, they never cut back to, they never shatter the Western illusion. You never cut back to the episode, or you never cut back to number 2's headquarters and see them doing this. It keeps that the reality of the Western up until he wakes up on the floor.
They want you to be as off kilter as number 6 is.
Yes, and I love that about this episode, because they all the time, whenever they're doing this, you always see cuts back to number 2 or the supervisor, and they're watching him on a screen and they comment on what's going on. And I love that they didn't do that in this episode. So
yeah, it was you needed it to be a consistent.
Yes.
Right up until the reveal. With if it wasn't, this would have nowhere near, wouldn't have any impact at all.
No.
And the whole point was, I think, for audience perspective, the whole point was to trick you into feeling empathy for Kathy.
Yes. Because
that is what they were trying to do to number 6. Even though if you just took 30 seconds to think, you'd be able to unravel the whole thing.
Yeah.
So it was a very clever episode, I believe. Very clever.
Eric O'Sullivan says, I just wanted to show gratitude. What an episode. What a loving pastiche to the competition, the Western, to distill the essence of The Prisoner into one episode set in an alternate backdrop and adult nuance. First time free for regs. For regs? First time free for regs? That's what he says at the end. Regs. I'm not sure what that is, but Eric, thank you for that super chat. That was very nice of you. But I agree. Like, it was a loving pastiche to the Western, which was obviously some of the biggest TV shows on at the time were Westerns, and I love how they played with that.
Yeah, like I said, if it was today it would be a superhero show,
Right.
you know. They would have taken the hot sort of genre at the time and played it into that.
Oh yeah.
What if number 6 was Superman and he was attempting to save Lois, but Lex, you know, it'd be all that sort of business.
This next one comes from Mark Chure, Mark C., our resident self-proclaimed toxic fan. I want to thank him. He's not really a toxic fan, but he brings up something that we haven't brought up on the show. Remember, the 5th of November, the gunpowder, treason, and plot. Mark C. says, Happy Guy Fawkes Day, remember,
Thank you.
Governments should be afraid of their people. People shouldn't be
Guido
afraid of their
Fawkes.
governments. Oh, yeah. Hi, Rob.
Should but not.
Yeah,
should,
you know.
but they're not. But oh, hell yeah, they should be.
I have to show you because, let's see, where did it go? Since it was brought up, I have it on these LEDs.
V for Vendetta?
Yeah, I got the gift box of V for Vendetta. The 4K V for Vendetta gift box that comes with a letter from the director and a booklet and a rose box.
It's got some of the best score.
And then of course this really
V for
nice
Vendetta.
a very nice cover actually. And you know, I love my
Natalie Portman used that hair to sew in the names of all the female directors that she hasn't hired herself for her own company.
So yes, I'm very excited that today's Guy Fawkes Day, and I'm going to probably watch this movie later. So I mean, you know, was Guy Fawkes the number 6 of his day?
Well, it's funny because of course when you're a child, you're taught of the evil of Guy Fawkes,
right?
And his plot, which was heroically stopped in blowing up Parliament. And then you get older and you start to get a little bit more involved in politics and stuff. And then, you know, suddenly you're kind of like... Guido is his real. Guido Fawkes was his real name. He was French,
right?
But Guido is Guy in English, and we call him Guy Fawkes. But he was actually called Guido Fawkes. There you go.
Yeah. John sends in a super chat and says, "Hail guys, Kathy reminded me of Nurse Chapel with Miss Kitty mixed in. The kids seemed to me to be challenged. It turned out he really was challenged."
Yes.
He was special. He was challenged.
It's great acting by Alexis Kenner, and Alexis Kenner formed a great relationship with Patrick McGoohan. And McGoohan ended up I think starring in his play that he wrote in the either 80s or 90s. I think 80s. But they maintained a friendship all the way up to Kenner's death in early 2000s, and then of course McGoohan passed about 10 years later.
Yeah. Spectre of the Gun sends in a tip and says, "It had an original series Star Trek feel to me all around. I think the scenery is meant to look a bit surrealistic." Yeah, I could see that.
I mean, it didn't detract.
No.
It didn't detract by anything in the episode. I thought they did the best that they possibly could. But I was immersed, and I think the whole thing was about immersion. So,
yeah, I thought they did a good job. And any flourishes that were not authentic is okay, because it you know, it's a virtual reality. It works fine. It works fine. Anonymous, and you know what's interesting is the Spectre of the Gun episode that is the name our viewer uses for his name or her name is also very surrealistic. I mean, they didn't build. It was not shot on a Western backlot. It was shot on a stage, and they had only built like the front facades of buildings. It's really interesting. Anonymous sends in a tip and says, "I hate to admit I know this, but Ronald D. Moore's Outlander, in its current season, rips off the hanging scene in this episode, the hanging POV scene. I saw that one first, and I kind of looked away a bit. Both things I watched the Prisoner episode. It's pretty brutal.
People saying Guy Fawkes was English, not French. His name was Guido Fawkes. But yeah, I just checked. He was born in York, which is North Yorkshire. He could have had French parents.
There you go. So yeah, I didn't realize that Ron Moore's Outlander series ripped off this, and it's brutal both ways. Our Anonymous had to look away both times. In both episodes.
It's disturbing imagery when you see, you're in a POV shot of death. It's very difficult when it's in POV not to put yourself in that position. So
right, yeah. Jay Frazier 360 sends in a super chat and says, at 3413 on the Blu-ray, number 2, the Judges, Ace of Spades is marked with a 1 instead of an A. Number 1? Be seeing you, gents. That's it. Might have I just took it as, that it was just the stylized deck. I mean, I did notice that, and I'm like, oh, this must be a period-accurate deck of cards, but maybe not.
Maybe. You just never know. You never know with this show.
You don't. Jordy Lyons is here and sends in a super chat and says, so Disco is a CBS money laundering operation.
Yes. I mean, that's the only thing it's fit for.
Yes. Ooh. I find this season of Discovery's shocking lack of imagination about what 1,000 years in the future would be like to be very depressing.
What 1,000 years in the future looks like Mikey Burnham.
Well,
oh my God, these.
And again, she gets into the center of the action this time. They go to the Trill homeworld and they basically do everything to ruin the Trill. I'm so unimaginative, but anyway,
dude, Mikey Burnham is the center of the universe.
She truly is.
By the end of season 4, she's going to kickstart the Big Bang. And the world, everything is going to be because of Mikey Burnham. And then they're all going to hug and cry and cry and hug and cry and hug. And will somebody run the fucking ship?
This episode was all one big encounter group session. I felt like I was in therapy. Yeah. I'm like, am I watching a science fiction show? It's literally touchy-feely. But anyway, Mr. Tickle Trunk sends in a super chat. Well, thank you, Mr. Tickle Trunk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jordy Lyons goes on to say, could I humbly request a Jeffrey Mao letter at the next opportunity? He's a talent, and I look out for his work, and he would be a great contributor. He's a great contributor to the Post-Geek Singularity. So what Jordy is referring to, Jordy's in the UK. Jeffrey Mao, or we call him the chairman around these parts.
Yeah.
The chairman, Jeffrey Mao. He writes great letters. And I think what Jordy is asking is if he could write one of his great letters to us.
Oh.
So
absolutely. I watched your Star Trek stream the other night, your observation.
Oh.
When you were talking Discovery. And the letter. And you were just like, hey, you've always got a safe, a safe space to talk about what you want, Right. You will always be kind. And I'm sat there go, fucking shite. And then but then you went into this. You said a lot of things which I totally agreed with Star Trek Discovery, and you went off in this great little speech about why it's shite in a nice way, and I was just like, yes, that.
Well, it was really interesting. Like, just as an example, so I know you haven't seen the episode, but they go to the Trill homeworld, and it's they pretty much fly.
What did the Trill do wrong that needs fixing?
Well, the funny thing about the Trill,
not inclusive enough as hosts. Tell me, please.
Well, apparently in the Trill homeworld they have all this spiritual mumbo jumbo, and one of our characters, the character has a Trill in her, and she can't can't connect to the memories of that Trill, and you get to
no. The Trills are the host. The symbiotes are the what's inside.
Right, but we have our human character that has the symbiote, and she can't. Our human character cannot access.
Symbiotes can't exist in humans for more than a few hours.
Right. Well, not anymore. And
did you even watch the host?
No.
Did you even watch the host? No. Okay.
Now there's Force ghosts, and they do this really, and now the character has an imaginary friend who's her former lover, who was her former host of this Trill. It's just very, But what really I think what really bothers me is
it's allowed to exist.
Well, they have taken something that has a very interesting scientific basis. The idea that, okay, if you have a symbiote and the symbiote is inside of you, and you now have access to the symbiote's memories, and now they have shown you that literally you can actually talk to the manifestations of the previous hosts, the joined Trill. And when I was looking at this going, this sort of defeats the whole purpose of everything that the fact that you can now, it's not like Force ghosts show up from your former hosts and you can talk to them. But now they've made it so there's this pool there's a cave on the Trill homeworld where you can do just that. And to me, that ruins the whole idea of coming to grips with memories. You know, it's far more interesting to keep it grounded in reality. They added this whole extra Force spiritual element to this idea that I think
the Trill have never had,
which they've never had, and I think that's what I also hate so much about this show is that these writers feel that they can go back and just change established lore to fit their whims, and their whims this whole episode was about being people who were suffering from trauma, and I'm like, you guys chose to go 1,000 years in the future. You've been 1,000 years in the future for a couple of days, and you're all pining away. I mean, this episode shows that everyone's depressed on the ship, but I'm like, where's your sense of duty? Like, these characters do not belong here. They're all worthless and weak.
Yeah, but sorry, we should.
I know.
Rob, she said at the end of season 3, I need to take the suit into the future where it can't be mucked around with. And they went, we'll come with you. And then the first thing she does in season 4, episode 1, is put it on autopilot and self-destruct. She could have put it on a fucking airlock in present time and blown the fucking thing up.
I know. But you know,
why are they retarded?
What I find really interesting to me though is when you're doing stories like this, like whether it's The Prisoner, whether it's The Twilight Zone, whether it's Star Trek, any great science fiction show works with allegory. There really is no allegory in Star Trek Discovery. It's all like literally, let's spend this episode talking about our feelings.
Yeah, it's blatant, it's obvious, it's crass. There's no nuance to it.
No. And there's no story. They don't have a story to go with it. It's like
they don't have an imagination.
That's what's lacking from the show. And then when you go to the Trill homeworld, it becomes an amalgamation of a dozen other science fiction trope shows, and they've made everything spiritual and mystical as opposed to having some kind of a basis in science. And
the Trill and the symbiote are very scientific cohesion, because the Trill is not the interesting part of it. It's the symbiote. That's why the host was so good, because you had Beverly Crusher be human and fall in love with the Trill, but it wasn't the Trill. It was physically the Trill, but the personality was, of course, the symbiote. Then when the host body was killed, and they couldn't get another Trill to implant the symbiote in, then they had to plank it into Riker for a bit. And then you had that discussion about ethics. I personally believe as a doctor, Beverly Crusher probably shouldn't have engaged in sexual activity. But we are talking 300 years into the future, and they have possibly reconciled the difference between sex and body and whatever. So fine, okay. And so it was interesting to see her interact with the symbiote in Riker, because she knows Riker. She knows Riker's personality, but Riker's personality was now the symbiote's personality.
Yeah, well, a combination of the two. I mean,
yeah. So there was the merger of the two, but obviously that one was more prevalent because of Riker being human and unable to. So it was much more the symbiote coming through there. And then, of course, the Trill host arrives, and it's placed inside of them, and it's a female. And so Crusher can't reconcile her sexuality, whereas to a symbiote and a Trill, this is breakfast.
Yeah, there's
nothing odd or weird about this. In actual fact, it's very sort of clunky when he's trying to her, whatever it is now, because that's the beauty, because it is a very much a non-binary species, because it does jump between gender fluid. He kind of tries to clunkily explain, so like, it's still me. Hello, you kind of get it. I'm just in a different body, that's all, but it's still me. So it was actually Beverly Crusher's prejudice. And
exactly.
Of course, the Trill didn't have the, they looked different, and they changed that for Deep Space Nine, and I think they did a great job in doing so and just making it a little bit different. But that's the beauty of the symbiote aspect, because you can play with those sort of themes. You can play with gender and sexuality and all that, and you can craft stories that are entertaining and educating at the same time. Edutainment. You don't know you're being educated. You don't know you're being, taught a moral or whatever, because it's an interesting and exciting episode to watch. Why would they go down the Bajoran route?
Oh,
the Trills don't need to be if the Trills were spiritual. I don't.
I thought that the depiction of the Trill society in this episode was borderline offensive. That's why I watch it. My jaw was, and I get it. I mean, I understand that you've got these writers. It's like every episode, like when you're dealing with The Prisoner, all right, you're dealing with this show, and they're trying to make a point about whether it's individuality, whether it's politics or something. They're showing you a story, and they're addressing these issues within the context of the story that's out. Our characters participating in it, but in this show, in Star Trek Discovery now, they literally just state these things. They have characters actually say exactly what it is. Like, this episode is about post-traumatic stress syndrome. You're suffering. They'll say it. You're suffering from PTSD.
Oh, well, wait. I haven't seen this episode yet because it doesn't come out for us until tomorrow. You mean the woman? I don't know the names of these people because I don't want to know them. I hate them. The woman with half a face, with the metallic android sort of half a face one. The one that's been suffering from PTSD clearly for 3 episodes. That the doctors have just like go on, love. Go on, I need to kiss my boyfriend. Go on, love. Go on, love. That's more important. That's more inclusive than your PTSD. Go on, love. Out the way you go. That one, who's just been walking around in a daze, not been able to perform her duties, is clearly suffering. I bet it's not even her that they fucking talk to.
Oh, no, they do. She's part, but that's they deal with the.
I thought it was gonna be Tilly.
No, they do. It's everybody's suffering. The whole ship. They've decided that the entire Discovery crew is depressed, and they all need an encounter group session. They all need therapy. And by the way, they get it. They get it.
Now you know what it's like watching an episode of Discovery.
I mean, it's interesting to me. Like they don't like normally you would have an allegorical story that would deal with PTSD,
Yes.
or you would do something like It's Only a Paper Moon, the episode where Nog has lost his leg,
Yes.
and they're dealing with something directly. But I just don't have any sympathy for a crew of a spaceship that decides, a Federation starship. They made the decision to go 1,000 years into the future. They've been there for a couple of days. And now they're all depressed and there's a huge monologue in the opening of the episode where his voiceover is talking about how depressed everybody is. And you see everybody walking around kind of in a daze because everybody they've ever known and lost, they didn't get to live through any of that. And it's like, well, what did you think when you went into the future was going to happen? You know, you all agreed to go there.
1,000 years in the future, just maybe Grandma's still alive.
I mean, I watch this and I'm like, I don't care. I want to watch an action adventure science fiction show. I don't care. And if these people are all depressed, I hate them.
Good.
Get them off the ship and get people that want to do what they're doing. I don't care. This is not
like Tilly last week when she was saying she's useless at her job.
Yeah.
Yes, you are, and you shouldn't be in Starfleet. Just stay on this planet. We'll move on.
I mean, they'd rather tell stories about this than say going to Earth. And wouldn't it be interesting to see a depiction of Earth 1,000 years in the future? They can't do that. They have no imagination to do that. They could only do Nick Starfleet Academy from the video game, and put a big tree, because remember that tree that Picard used to work at? Sure.
Remember, it's big now. Let's hug it. Out of here. Why aren't they going to Vulcan, which is the species that made first contact with Earth?
I mean, that's what I said.
Why are they going to the Andorians?
So they meet this character that was on Earth that decides to go along on the Discovery, because the idea is this character used to be an admiral. It was the Trill, the joined species, or the symbiote was in an admiral. They don't know where the Federation is now. They don't know where Starfleet is. Wouldn't that information?
Maybe he went to Vulcan. Or
yeah, maybe it's like, why aren't you doing that? But they'd rather tell this story instead. Like in terms of storytelling, like if you want to, wouldn't you want to see where the Star Trek future actually is? Going back to Earth, going back to Vulcan, going back to the Klingon homeworld, going to Kronos, whatever. But no,
I don't want to see another Klingon in this series ever again.
But anyway,
until they start looking like Worf again. They start looking like Worf, I'll talk. Anyway,
but we digress.
Look, I need to show you some nice things. I want to show you some nice things. First nice thing. Rover coming down the street.
Now, is that how it came, or did you paint that?
Oh, this is how it came.
Wow.
It came fully realized like this. Absolutely beautiful.
Wow. Now you have to explain to the viewers what that is.
This is Rover.
But I mean, where those came from?
These came from a very specific store where you can get these very small prisoner dioramas and models, and I've got a bunch of all the other stuff over there. I'll show that off next week. But here, I better get the instructions out so you can actually see what this one's going to be. Here,
wow,
we have that, and that is going to become that.
But now you have to paint that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to have to paint that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I have got number 2's chair, number 2's control room, taxi kiosk, where am I? You're here,
right?
Kiosk. I've got those over there, which will require painting, and then I received another letter, Rob. I received another letter, which I'm going to get out now, which came enclosed with a little gift. I'll show the gift first, and then I'll read the letter out. The gift, we saw a painted one, but this is an unpainted Patrick McGoohan.
Wow.
An unpainted Patrick McGoohan, lead. So his head's at one side. There's actually a hand with a gun on the other side. He could hold a gun. So I was thinking to myself, put this together, might paint me a Curtis from Schizoid Man.
Yeah, you should. With the reverse jacket.
Yes. Pigeon Guard Games, folks. Sorry. Pigeon Guard Games is where you can get these from. And this is the letter I got with this. And it's a lovely little letter. I'll keep the name private just in case. But they say, "Hi, Az. I'm such from such. And I have enjoyed watching your videos on YouTube. I am an agoraphobic schizophrenic, but I feel absolutely sane compared to the insane SJWs in the comics, games, and Hollywood film industry." And I give a thorough amen to that. "I grew up reading superheroes and Spider-Man comics in the 70s and 80s, and I can't go near them anymore. They've tainted so much of everything. Anyway, I'm loving your vids with Robert reviewing The Prisoner. Well, here's a Patrick McGoohan Prisoner number 6 figure for you. I hope you like it and enjoy painting him. It's just a little thank you from what you do. All the best, Az. I hope you get some great surprises since you set up your P.O. box. You deserve it." Oh, I have actually. Did you see I got the whole Babylon 5 box set?
No.
Oh my God! Where have I put it? It's over there. Yeah, somebody sent me the whole complete Babylon 5 series ultimate box set, and someone else sent me the new TV series that they did afterwards.
Crusade.
Crusade, which ran for one season.
Well, that's
and then
pretty
they
awesome.
Put, "You deserve it. You've cheered my life up a lot with other people and informed us of the crazy stuff that's going on. Best wishes." So I thought that was really nice. I love those little letters.
Yeah.
And that's, I think a Curtis, considering we've got a number 6.
Yeah, you need to do a Curtis. That'd be great.
Let's do a Curtis from Schizoid Man and get that reversed. So I think that there's some lovely stuff. So the full box set of Babylon 5. So I got no excuse now. I'm gonna have to, now that we're in lockdown here, because we're in lockdown now.
Yeah, how severe is your lockdown?
Very.
So
only like put it this way, you can work from home, work from home. Do not go to work. If you have to go into work, go into work. Schools are open, everything else is shut. Bars, restaurants, gyms, everything's shut down. If possible, don't go out. Obviously, you can for a little bit of exercise and that, but it's pretty much a 1 month lockdown.
Wow.
And this is day 1.
Mr. Tickle Trunk sends in another super chat and says, "You two need another show called We're Fed Up with Rob and Az."
Yeah, we're fed up of everything.
That way you'll always be on topic. Well, you know what? I'm not fed up with much, to be honest. I'm just fed up with Star Trek Discovery. I'm modern Star Trek in general. But
I'm fed up with modern escapism.
Yes, I think you're right.
I don't think it exists anymore. Very seldom. There's a few nuggets still out there, which is subjective, and unfortunately they are subjective. But I think there's a few nuggets out there. But for the most part, I think escapism is dead. We're just getting lectured. We're being told that we need to see reality in all of our fantasy, and that's the whole defeating object of it. We need to see fantasy in our fantasy.
Well, I think what really bothers me is the stories are suffering. You know, I love storytelling. I don't care if somebody's telling me a story or I'm watching a movie or reading a book. I've always loved storytelling because I think storytelling is the best way to convey the human experience to one another.
Yeah.
And now, like when I was watching this last episode's Discovery, you'll see it. It was just people talking about their feelings to one another. That literally was the entire episode. We're talking about our feelings.
Horrible people expressing their feelings about each other.
Right.
They're not even nice people.
I mean, you know, and you think about, like, there's one scene in the original Star Trek called in Balance of Terror when Kirk is musing to Dr. McCoy and he says, "Why me?" Because the Romulans have snuck over the border, and what the Enterprise does could either stop a war or start a war, and Dr. McCoy gives Kirk advice, says, look, you know, don't feel sorry for yourself. In this galaxy, there's a mathematical probability of 3 million Earth-type planets, and in all of that, perhaps more. There's only one of each of us. Don't destroy the one called Kirk. And that's it. That's it. Kirk has his long dark night of the soul that lasts for 2 seconds, and McCoy straightens him out, and he gets back to work. But nowadays we live in a world, I guess because the audience is so, you know, they want to hear it. The audience is used to having people talk about their feelings and all of that. And I'm just like, you know what, when you're out on the final frontier, then somebody pointed out to me, somebody said to me, they said, you know what Discovery really needs then? Perhaps the ship's counselor on the bridge. And I'm like, that's a good idea.
You know, those great, just, you know, there were those wonderful little moments with Picard and Troy. My favorite one being after the capture by the Cardassians, where he just comes straight back onto the bridge, and then he just turns to Riker and says, "You have the bridge number 1," and then just says, "Counselor, walk in." He's just like not missing a beat. He's walking straight to his ready room. She goes in. And then he's just like sits down, and she sits down, and he's just ready to talk. And he's just like, you know, he you know, tells the story of the lights to her, and he said, and at the end, I actually thought I could see 5 lights, and it's very powerful. And that's where it ends, because it just kind of says, you know, for all that we saw and all the bravado that we saw with Picard, he was getting to the point of breaking. He really was getting to that point where he was kind of like, okay, I think I do see 5 lights now.
Yeah.
And it was to show he's human. You know, it was to show that even though he's braved all of this and, you know, been Picard and come through, he's fallible. He's human and he's fallible, and it was a great little ending. And then we see little bits where, you know, Picard and Data are sitting down when he's created LOL, and then we have that great, you know, that's a great kind of discussion of feeling, because it's just like, I'll switch her off. You can't just switch off. You've created a life,
right?
You know, so we have these wonderful moments, and then in the drumhead, sorry, not the drumhead, in Measure of a Man, where he sits Data down and he's trying to explain to Data, it's, you know, this is probably your duty to kind of go along with this, and then Data's just like, I don't want to, aren't I my own man, and this kind of stuff. And Picard, just halfway through him explaining, just, you can see Picard just switch, and he's just like, he is, you know, I can't order him to go. I can't tell this sentient being next to me what to do. He's got here, so and he just kind of says, "That'll be all, Mr. Data." Literally just dismisses him.
Oh yeah,
those are great moments of I don't care how Mikey fucking Burnham feels. I don't care how Tilly feels. I don't care how short-haired sassy lesbian feels. I don't care how Dr. Gay feels. I don't care how half-faced woman feels. I don't care how Black Helm's woman feels. I don't care how black guy stood behind on something feels. I don't care what bloomin' albino engineer feels. You're horrible people. You have spent 3 seasons and now 2 seasons and now into the third being horrible, narcissistical, selfish, self-absorbed people who do not conform to the chain of command, who have no respect for the chain of command, who have no respect for the uniform that you wear, and you want me to care about how you feel? You are the last person on the universe as we know it who I could possibly care about. I would rather care more about the Andorian that got eaten by the slug last week than you.
You're not wrong. And now they've added a new character that we met last week who becomes the central focus of the episode this week.
Oh, you mean last week's? She's amazing.
Yes.
Like, if it was Geordie LaForge, he'd be like going spare. Who's messed with my engine? How she messed with my engine? You know, we need to work out how she's locked into the interface. You know, da-da-da-da-da. And then you just got Stamos, is it?
Stamets, yeah.
Stamets and Tilly just going, oh my God, isn't she like amazing? Oh my God. She knows everything about Discovery's starships, even though it's fucking classified and been removed from Starfleet. You know, even Starfleet don't have the... Oh my God. Do you even watch your own show? You know, and it was just so... They're so obnoxious. And it's just that, oh, hi, I see you did our systems. Do you know something? What's that? You are amazing. I know. I am a little bit amazing, and I'm only 16, and I'm amazing. Oh, secret reveal, I got a symbiote inside of me. Oh my God. That's Star Trek nowadays.
Yeah, it's pretty awful.
It's obscene. Oh my God, I would kill to be back in 1987. Be a little boy watching Next Gen.
Well, it's interesting. It's almost like heroes have become too quaint, or people. The great thing, like I've always said, that Star Wars too, but Star Trek as a show, it's about elite people. It's about the 1%, the best of the best. You have to be the best of the best to be on the final frontier, and this show is written about people that aren't that. The characters are not that, and I think that's strange. Like, what's so hard about making the crew of a Starfleet ship be unbelievably competent and good at their jobs? And they're the best of the best.
This is Police Academy in space.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's a very good analogy.
We're a bunch of people who do not fit whatsoever, who aren't worthy to wear the uniform, going around being amazeballs.
Well,
at everything they do.
We are at the 2-hour mark, and we got to bring it back. We got to land this plane
I know.
Back to the prisoner,
because this is on Discovery. So yeah, we need to blow up the Starship Discovery and then come back. I'd rather go into prison. The island. Take me back to the island, please.
My moderator, Robert Pariso, says he never thought he'd hear you do Valley Girl impressions.
It's one of my
God,
favorites.
that's the best.
Oh my God, it's like unbelievable.
You're so good at it.
Amazing. Like, I woke up today and I thought, oh my God, I did a thing and it was like amazeballs.
Did you gram it?
Oh yeah, I put it on the gram. You gotta give it to the gram. You gotta do it for the gram.
But so this episode being an atypical episode of The Prisoner, sort of. I mean, in terms of its setting, obviously, but still, I think a very worthy entry into the canon of The Prisoner.
I think this is a cracking episode.
It's a cracking.
It's a cracking episode. It subverts your expectations in the right way.
Yes.
Is what it does, and it does take you as well as the prisoner out of the comfort zone that you've been in, and that's how you cleverly shake something up. And so yeah, I love Living in Harmony. I have loved it from the very first time that I saw it. It is to me, everything that we've done so far has just been, it's at least an 8. Everything that we've done so far. Type of business. And Living in Harmony to me is no exception. We've had 13 episodes of just class, I think, so far.
Now, we've only got 4 episodes left. 4 episodes left. And what are we going to do next week? I
said I would take one for the team. And next week, we're going to do The Girl Who Was Death.
The Girl Who Was Death. Great title.
Great title. Terrible episode.
It's a terrible episode.
Terrible episode. My least favorite. But let's do it. Let's do it.
I have to give a shout out to Jason Spriggs, who did the graphics. This particular graphic is one of my favorites that he's done. I love it because he included the silhouette of number 6 bearing Kathy.
And the great pose. I love the kid's arm out pose.
Oh yeah. No, he did a phenomenal job. I mean, it's great that he's doing these for us. I can't thank him enough. He's a very talented man. Apparently, he's making a movie for my film festival that I'm running. Oh. So, is there anything that you would like to promote? What are you doing?
Well, hey, I mean, I don't want to speak out of turn here, Robert, but I hear discussion of. Oh my God! I've got to have a quick word with you when we finish the stream. James Bond.
Yes, yes, we're doing that on our own. My girlfriend and I are talking about some Bond movies, but yes, we are going to. Are you going to join us? We are going to do.
I have been invited.
Yes, so we can talk about that. So the boys over at Midnight's Edge, Tom over at Midnight's Edge, and Andre, and you and I, and a rotating panel of great guests are going to look at all the James Bond films, beginning with Dr. No.
Dr. Cano. So I've been invited to do that if I can. I've said, I need more specifics as to when.
Yes.
And times and stuff. But I'm interested because I'm a big Bondy fan. So
me too. I mean, we should really go.
Yeah.
We could even go back to watch the Barry Nelson Casino Royale that was done for American television.
David Niven and
Jimmy Bond. That was before. That's Casino Royale from the late '60s, but this was on American TV in the '50s. It was the first time, and James Bond was Jimmy Bond, and Peter Lorre played Le Chiffre. And it was
I've seen that, black and white.
Yeah, it's black and white.
Yeah. I've seen it, yeah.
We could even go back that far, although it's not very good.
Oh, well, I've seen it. Yes, it's very studio.
Yes, it's very studio. But I do own the Blu-ray, so.
Wow. Yeah. That's quite interesting. We don't know an exact date of this yet, but they did discuss it openly on Midnight's Edge when I was on Midnight's Edge yesterday. Yeah. So I think we can discuss it. So I do say yeah.
Mr. Tickle Trunk sends in another super chat and says, "You laughed at my show idea, but I think you're coming around. How about here's how you fix modern sci-fi with Rob and Az?"
I thought your first one was great.
They're both good. I think how you fix modern sci-fi is if people would read some science fiction.
Yes.
Go back and read some of the great. There's great science fiction still being published, and it's almost like
and watch some stuff.
Yes.
Watch some source material if you're gonna get involved in the show. But it's like Lashana Lynch. She was being interviewed in a magazine in the UK, and she just talks you out of a movie theater. It's just like, well, this Bond film, it's about women, rising up and pushing down toxic masculinity. And it's like, no, I want Bond to be as masculine as possible.
Yes.
I want explosions. I want masculinity. I want Boosie being crushed. I want sexy cars as well. I want the job. It's meant to be ostentatious. It's meant to be OTT.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit about, Me Too. I don't give a toss about this in my James Bond. You have to understand fantasy. And this is this whole thing where we're losing our escapism because these blooming activists are trying to integrate their own personal politics instead of understanding what the audience actually wants. But that's what you get when you're stuck in a bubble.
It's true.
So yeah, The Girl Who Was Death next week.
The Girl Who Was Death. Very exciting. Very exciting.
This could be the shortest episode yet. So 5 minutes in, Discovery. Oh my god.
No, we're over 2 hours. You know, it's funny.
No, I mean, for The Girl Who Was Death.
Oh yeah, the girl. Yeah, right, right. Yes. By the way, I did think last week when we were going to do the show this week that we would have a new president here in the United States.
No, you haven't.
But we do not.
You probably won't for a few more days either.
We do not.
Maybe longer.
We do not. But I mean, what's interesting is this is not unexpected. The votes have to be counted. They knew it was going to take a long time. What's interesting about our voting system is, each state.
Why? It didn't take. It's never taken this long last time.
Well, no, but that's because the majority of the votes this time were mailed in, and most of the states could not start counting those mail-in ballots until actual election day. So
that's how we operate in the UK.
Yeah. See, this was new for us. And
have you seen how we do it in the UK? It's a competition almost. To get your ballot boxes in, to get them torn off, get them out, get them done, and there's a little competition. Which county finishes first?
Oh yeah, we don't have that here.
And it's a slick machine, and they get it at like 5 when the polling booths finish. They're collected, taken to the counting office in that region, in that county, and done.
Yeah.
Then we get the answer by 3, 4, 5 in the morning.
Each state in our nation has different ways of doing it. They have their own ways of doing it. So maybe by next week we'll have a new president or the same president. If
only they had a system of government in those states that could run things.
Well, what are you gonna do? So yeah,
politics.
I know.
It's great.
Now more than ever.
It's just like Miguel Ferrer in Hot Shots Part 2. War. It's great.
Miguel Ferrer. I used to love Miguel. He was.
You make me sad.
He was in Star Trek 3. Miguel Ferrer was the helmsman on the Excelsior.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. God bless. Rest his soul. Yeah. RoboCop, of course.
Oh, so good. He was great in Tony Scott's Revenge. Not a lot of people have seen Revenge, but I love Revenge. It's Kevin Costner and Madeline Stowe and Anthony Quinn. It's a good one. Although it's in a quiet.
Costner and Diane Lane. There's a film coming out with those two.
I can't wait to see that.
Is this the prequel to Man of Steel?
Yeah, I'm like, that's why they probably got together and decided to do it.
Diane Lane.
Still gorgeous.
Gorgeous. Gorgeous woman. Oh, yeah. I think the record for counting is less than 30 minutes in the northeast of England.
Well, they've got us beat.
Yeah. Give us a few days. Maybe read.
Well, anyway,
we've got to find the ones we put in a ditch.
Should we wrap this one up?
Yes. Girl Who's Death. Have you got a Robservation tonight?
I do. I'm going to do it right after this, and then I'm actually on. I'm doing another live chat with another lovely. I'll do a Robservations, then we got whining about movies. Although something tells me I can't even get to that. We've been so swamped. But then I'm doing a live broadcast after Robservations, and I'm trying to find where that is. I don't know exactly where it is. It's a KSU Independent Films, and I'm looking for the link. Hang on. I can actually put it in the live chat. I'm doing this today, and it's going to be at 4 o'clock, 4 o'clock my time. So I'm going to go from Robservations to this, and I'm putting that into the live chat. KSU, it's Kent State University. I'm going to be on a Kent State University independent film, Cinema Strategies. And I'm going to be doing that in just a little shy of 2 hours. And Samuel Tessier is joined by me. And I'm going to share my experiences creating the feature film Free Enterprise and beliefs on adapting existing material. I hope he doesn't say, what'd you think of the latest episode of Star Trek Discovery?
No, I hope he does.
But
and he follows up immediately. Wasn't it wonderful?
Well, you know what I'm realizing? I think that it's now I think the people that love Star Trek Discovery, there's old school fans that do, but I do think it's a generational thing. You know, I think that people who
I don't. I think it's a political thing.
Well, that too. I mean, but generational, how people were brought up, how people were raised, and in this new world we live in of identity politics, and it really is that every kid gets a trophy. Like, let's all feel special. I need to be told that I'm great, and I think
I need constant affirmation.
Constant affirmation, and I think Star Trek was made by people originally that came out of World War II. Gene Roddenberry was a pilot. In World War II, war is hell. We live in a world where, the Nazis exterminated 12 million people, 6 million Jews and 6 million other undesirables, systematically destroyed. And then Stalin killed Stalin, your beautiful Marxist land that people in America are like, I'm a Marxist. Stalin killed 20 million of his own people.
Yeah.
And it's now we live in a world where people are embracing Marxism. I want to be a Marxist, or I am a Marxist. I'm like, have you paid attention?
I don't know what the hell they're talking about.
20th century is not filled with, there's not, please point me to a civilization that effectively adopted Marxism and made it work. Show us that, please.
No, they can go find a country. Go find one.
Yeah, go find one.
Go find one. And enjoy your wonderful... I wouldn't say it's generational, because generational, to me, says that you're including that generation, but it's not. It's excluding a huge part of that generation, I feel. I think it's selfish. I think it's self-indulgent. I think it's a product of a terrible Hollywood echo chamber system, where there is literally one think and there's no other think. There's no diversity of thought whatsoever anymore. In Star Trek, there's no nuance, there's no intellect, there's no intelligence, there's no innovation anymore. We literally have a bunch of sorority children on a starship that speak like sub-IQ humans, that try and bypass everything with technobabble instead of actually coming up with interesting and innovative ways to diffuse problems or go through problems. But they don't have problems because Mikey Burnham is the bestest thing in the whole universe ever.
It's true. And she still is. It's funny. This character was going to go to the Trill homeworld with someone else. And, of course, it ended up being Burnham going with her instead. So, because why not? Well, listen, on this lovely note... we're going to bring an end to our episode of 6 of 1. Mark C., by the way, sends in a super chat and says, what Discovery needs is what society needs to grow a set of balls.
That's toxic masculinity, Mark.
Dude, that's the patriarchy putting you down.
Yeah, product of the patriarchy.
The patriarchy is coming after you.
Hashtag me too, Mark. Yes, thank you ever so much for having us, Rob. We'll be back on next Wednesday.
Yeah.
Not Thursday. Next Wednesday, 8 p.m. UK time, midday your time, with the worstest episode of The Prisoner ever.
I want to thank my moderating staff. You know who's here today? Purple Valkyrie is moderating for me today.
Yeah, I saw her in the chat. She's a great gal.
She is a great guy. I love her voice. I could listen to her talk forever. Robert Pariso is here. Is that where she's from? Birmingham?
Birmingham way.
Robert Pariso. Let's see who else is here. Well, I guess that's it. Robert Pariso.
Sounds like there's some brummy there.
So thank you all very much. Bunyan Snipe in the UK also. I got UK moderators, man. They can come hang out with you. I can't.
I love the Rob Atlas where he's got the be seeing you The prisoner running, the rover, the Vulcan sloop. That's great stuff.
Well, I want to thank
rover. I love the rover, so that's just great.
So thank you all, and we'll bring an end to this episode, and we're doing The Girl Who Was Death next week.
Yes, we shall be seeing it.
So yes, be seeing it. It's a salute.
It is a salute.
Good day, everyone. And I'll see you on Robservations in like mere moments, and then Kent State University. So, all right.